Happy Halloween, everyone, and it's not Halloween? In fact, it's already past Christmas and New Year's? Well, I'm gonna act like Frieza and choose to ignore that because I want to talk about a horror visual novel. The name of this visual novel is Aim to Capture, and it's made by Mystery Gem Games, an indie developer. Before we begin, there is some stuff I have to mention. First things first, I'm the realist. Second things second, this game isn't all the way out yet. There's currently only Chapter 1 available, and you can get it on itch.io and Steam, links in the description of course. It's roughly 3 hours give or take. I spent around like 5 on it, but that's mostly because I always stop to talk to chat about dumb bullshit like Yu-Gi-Oh! It's complicated, but you primarily play as Bent Malay, a delivery driver, and the game opens with him simply doing his job. I have to say, I actually find this portion of the game rather charming, mostly because of all the various people Bent interacts with, which sets up the world nicely. They're all customers who are wonderfully unique in their own ways. The first of which being a dog, who's trying to keep his wife from knowing he forgot to get groceries, who tips you with some nonsense. Then there's this ultra paranoid something, I don't know, he never leaves his house. And finally, this mother and her son. This is a slight side note, but you know who she reminds me of? That one white bitch from Melty Blood. Okay, so I looked it up and she's from Undernight, actually, and her name is Hilda, by the way. This has absolutely nothing to do with anything, but it was a thought I had while I was writing the script, so whatever. I know I'm harping on these minor characters a lot, but I feel like they help establish the world of Aim to Capture, making it feel perfectly mundane, which helps it later. But this actually brings me to one of Aim to Capture's unique mechanics. You know how visual novels and games in general give you different dialogue options? In Aim to Capture, you get cards instead. These cards don't quite represent your responses, rather they represent the emotion put behind them. You begin with only 2, apathy and empathy, but you get more as the game goes on, like the word analyze or nightmare. But the game takes it even further when you enter Ben's brain to further develop his emotions. You know that one alchemy game, where you combine words to get new concepts? It's like that, but you know, more emotional. This system isn't just a bonus thing tacked on, because with each new emotion you get, a new response becomes available. They lead to dialogue changes, but also different endings. Some are peaceful, while others are anything but. Aim to Capture is also able to play around with this mechanic in interesting ways. Sometimes Benz is in a situation where all other emotions are overridden and you're forced to give a single response. It happens when dealing with Furry Hilda and her son, but Aim to Capture really begins to shine when Benz arrives at his next stop. He knocks on the door, but no one answers. Is something wrong? Was the order placed by mistake? Is the dude simply not home? But on the ground, there's blood. Fresh and red. He goes in the back to check out what's going on, and that's when he sees it. Black like tar and covered in eyes. Whatever it is shouldn't belong in this world. In the great tradition of furry visual novels, you can thank Echo for that, Aim to Capture is another horror novel, and it handles its horror very well. That's why I was talking about all those side characters so much, because Aim to Capture does wonders to establish how mundane this world is. There's times where we get to see Bent scroll social media, and it's things like art, food pics, and ads. You can even like and comment on these posts as you see them. Bent has a little sister named Haley, and I'm just now noticing this, which has nothing to do with anything, but I've been misspelling her name in the script this entire time. And they get together for a movie night. She even talks about school, where her biggest problem is PE. Think of that entire portion with the customers as the calm before the storm, meant to give us an idea what normalcy looks like to only make the more horrifying parts more punchy. And Aim to Capture does this so effectively and quickly and then keeps doing it where it's not just in the beginning as things slowly get worse. It's interspersed throughout the entirety of Chapter 1. A lot of Aim to Capture is so normal in so many ways where you could almost confuse it for a slice of life story. And when the horror does hit, it's not just scary, but it's invasive, uncomfortable, and weird. It doesn't really fit with everything else, so it's doubly notable. And I've gotta say that I really do like Bent as a character. Bent isn't a bad person, he's far from it in fact. He's not Chase from Echo, oh wow, take a sip every time Fury uses Echo as a point of comparison. But Bent is essentially just a normal guy who's kind of going through it. He works this shitty delivery job to make a better life for his sister, who he genuinely does care about. He's not rude, not that he's perfect either, but he knows when to keep those thoughts to himself at least. He's perfectly suited to this story where something unnatural invades the seemingly normal person's life. And it's this occurrence that proves that there's something more and something unusual within Ben, that he can't leave well enough alone. He can't just leave well enough alone and pretend it never existed. He goes to the back of the house to check out the noise, and then after seeing a monster murder somebody, he comes back the next day to make sure it was real. He's borderline suicidal when it comes to this strange entity. And when he hears stories of what that monster has done, he has to ask himself why. Why does he care so much about it? It's this fascinating thing where we only come to the realization much later in the chapter that Bent is just as odd as the monster. He's not normal. There's something wrong with him that just draws him right back into the problem. But I digress, because there's two other major characters in this visual novel that I do need to talk about. The first of which I'll talk about is this big guy right here. He's named Kane. He's first introduced when Ben goes to check out the monster the next day. He's weird and strict, but in like a refined way. He clearly knows more than Bent and is hesitant as fuck to explain anything. His knowledge runs deep. He knows where this monster is and knows what it can do. Not just to Bent, but also to his sister. He's so strange that it's honestly really hard for me to describe him here, so I'm just going to move on to the other guy, Robbie. He's a rabbit who was nearly killed by the monster in the past and has been tracking it ever since. He's got guts and, little else. His best idea being limited to a pocket knife, but he does know more than Bent and is willing to share, even if it's not much. For example, he knows that the monster can shapeshift, looking like a normal person whenever it wants to. And suddenly, everything gets a lot more dangerous when you don't know who the monster is. You have a choice between the two: the strange man who's reluctant to tell you anything but knows what he's doing, or the scrappy rabbit who's willing to share but far less ready. But I have to apologize. You see, I have kind of been lying to you because Aim to Capture is far more complicated than I've let on. Yes, you play as Bent, but you're replaying as someone playing as Bent. You actually take control of an unknown and unnamed character in front of an old computer that they should not be using. It's this computer that's simulating the events you play through and gives you an accuracy score once it's over, with death being the endpoints. It's here we actually get most of the concrete information about what exactly is going on. The monster's name is RSS-8, which is broken out of the facility, in that there are other RSS projects. Whatever that means isn't really known, but there are implications that get your mind racing. I gotta say, these moments when the security system kicks in and we're brought back to the desktop are some of my favorites. Partly because it breaks up the monotony of the visual novel because you have to solve these puzzles and stuff to get back into the system, and partly because of the fact that we don't just get lore, it's how it's presented. It's very diegetic and all presented as a way that's a part of the story proper. It lets the visual novel info dump without actually breaking immersion. In fact, it only strengthens it. It helps give the audience knowledge but not Bent, keeping suspense since we know something he doesn't. And it's even able to give us extraneous details that are otherwise unnecessary. For example, there's files on the computer related to the old users that have nothing to really do with the events of the game. Just friends shooting the shit and messing with each other. Like I said, this world is painfully mundane, which only makes it that more terrifying when scary stuff starts to happen. It even uses this double narrative of having Bent and then the one on the computer to add to the gameplay. There's moments where Aim to Capture kind of turns into a point and click. On one hand, it's Bent giving extra details and thoughts to the stuff around him. But then it's also the one on the computer making notes of anomalies that appear in the record. I don't mean to cut this short, but guess who's 6? They have to breeze past and get this bit of the video done. You're essentially playing as two characters at once, and the visual novel makes it work very well. Neither part trips over the other, rather they come together to give information to the reader and build suspense. I also want to mention the game's visuals, how it has a complex style that suits itself. A mix of FMVs and animation. When the person on the computer talks, it even gets its own unique text box to distinguish it, which I think is really cool. And that is where I'm ending the video, not because I'm out of things to talk about. There's like a plot twist I wanted to mention, but like I really just can't go on. It's like 8 AM, tired as fuck. I don't feel well either. Alright, so let's just get the Patreon shoutouts done so I can get out of here. Special shout out to Wolfrix, McCoydes, Garen LaFay, Tron, and Zora Chow. The baddie alert. Thank you for watching, like and subscribe, whatever, you know how it goes. Bye.